The problem with having a fixation on the JGSDF's vehicles in the modern era is that I keep having to touch on the Japanese economic bubble, collapse of the Soviet Union, and the JGSDF's emphasis on domestic production driving up costs. This week's vehicle is no different. This is the Type 87 RCV, nicknamed the Black Eye based off Komatsu's Type 82 CCV. That's right, this is the first vehicle in the series without Mitsubishi Heavy Industries doing the, heavy lifting. The Type 87, however, is in the same boat as most of the JGSDF vehicles, with only 111 produced over a total of 26 years. So what happened to the Type 87? What slowed its production, why is it being replaced, and what does that replacement look like? Type 87's development origins start way before the Type 90 or the Type 89. It actually begins at the end of the Second World War with the M8 Greyhound. The JGSDF was given many different variants of the M8 Greyhound to operate. However, the M8s were used sparingly, as much of Japan's infrastructure and roads had been sufficiently leveled or were too underdeveloped and rural to allow big vehicles to move on them, let alone an armored vehicle. By the time Japanese road infrastructure had been completed or rebuilt, the M8 Greyhound was way past outdated. If you're wondering, yes, the JSDF was still using the M8 Greyhound in conjunction with APCs and motorcycles to do reconnaissance, albeit only where absolutely necessary. As such, the JSDF now needed a new, specialized vehicle to fulfill the role of scouting. Not only that, the vehicle needed to be able to defend itself should it be found in a bit of a pickle. Type 87 is most similar to vehicles like the Soviet BRDM-2, Spanish VECM-1, and German Sparpanzer, all designed to fit a light armored reconnaissance role. From the Type 82 CCV, the Type 87 would slightly modify the chassis to accommodate the turret mounted. Besides that, almost all the powertrain systems for the Type 87 and Type 82 would be identical. One slight quirk from the Type 87 and Type 82 to note though, is that the Type 87 for some reason does not have NVC protection. I couldn't find a conclusive statement as to why NVC was removed, but explanations vary from it adding unnecessary weight or not being part of doctrine. If I'm free to speculate though, I don't think either of these reasons make much sense to remove the NVC protection, but I'm also not an expert. The Type 87 had its first prototypes begin production in 1983, with technical testing beginning in 1985. In 1986, the vehicle would undergo operational testing, and in 1987, the Type 87 was finally accepted into service. If you play the Type 87 in War Thunder, you'll notice that the 87P and its production counterparts vary in one very major way: stabilizer. The stabilizer is noticeably absent on the production variant of the Type 87. Like the removal of the NVC, there isn't an exact known reason why the stabilizer was removed, but explanations vary from cost, heavier weight of the 25mm compared to the 20mm, doctrine, or production space in the turret. Knowing what I said in the intro though, I'd pin my thoughts on a mix of doctrine and budget constraints. Speaking of the intro, yes, the Type 87 faces the same issues as the Type 89 and Type 90. You know the drill by now: economic bubble burst, collapse of the Soviet Union, and slashing of the defense budget. And as you might have guessed, the Type 87 also met the JSDF's doctrine of producing things domestically, except the gun. The 25mm Oerlikon cannon is the only licensed production item on the list, with the rest coming from Japanese companies. As you might have guessed from the other videos, this means that no more are being produced. According to a UN National Register, Type 87 stopped its production in 2013, with a grand total of 110 being in active service with the JSDF. Of course, we can also extrapolate on that. If none are being produced, that likely means there are a lack of spare parts at minimum, and no spare parts at worst if the Type 87s do see combat. This begs the question though, what's going to replace the Type 87? That would be the C2WV, or Common Tactical Wheeled Vehicle, which is based on the Type 16 chassis. If you remember from the Type 89 video, this vehicle is slated to be Japan's next wheeled IFV. The 89 and 87 are being replaced by the 24 and 25 respectively, both on the Type 16 chassis. This falls in with the JSDF's doctrine to make a more modular and streamlined armored force. This effectively puts 4 vehicles, counting a variant of the Type 24, onto one chassis, just with different turrets. It's pretty similar to how the Fox and Warrior share a turret, or how the Striker platform hosts different utility systems. While the Type 87 is being phased out and fell victim to the lost decade of Japan, its replacements seem to have a successful future on the horizon, with streamlined production and commonly unified parts being the norm. The vehicle is gone, but the concept is not forgotten. That's all for this week's video, and I'll see you on the next one.